Hi, Brooke. Hi, everyone.
Hey.
It's very cozy in your car. It's got a very nice warm jacket you've got on there.
The journey to arrive here has been one beautiful journey of connection. Really, had no internet this morning, and so I'm like, "What's that about?" It's like, "Well, you need to go connect, don't you?" So off I went on a little walk, connected to the land, and came back in a much better place. Went right. I'm doing the call somewhere else today, so here we are in the car.
Yeah, beautiful. Thank you so much for being agile in finding a solution. This trusting. Cool. This is a thing that's come up. I've hit a wall. All right, where can I go next? What can I do next? And even just sending me a message like, "What do you reckon we should do, John?" It's just like the phone's fine. Like this is going to be perfect. Whatever comes up, whatever's going to be here is going to be perfect. So thank you.
Yeah, trust that. Yeah. No, thank you for the journey. Thanks for calling me to action, to be here and to share my voice.
My pleasure. And so, for those of you that are watching, stick around because there will be some nuggets that'll be dropped here. You'll feel lots of feelings, and it's really important that you feel those feelings and express what's there for you. And, like, what do you feel is most present for you right now, Brooke? Like, what's the most pressing thing that's bubbling up to the surface for you that you want to give some air and some sound to?
Yeah. Well, there's a lot at the moment. What I'm feeling energetically is there's a huge flood, and to remember that, like we are the well, like I am the well, and that this information coming through without a container is a wasted resource. And what I'm seeing and feeling mostly at the moment is me personally, and what's been coming up through ceremonies is there's not a place for the mother in our current structure, in our current societal, and we'll probably go into it, but you can call it matriarch, patriarch, whatever you want to call it. There is still no mother in those lines. The mother is lost there, the father is lost there, but specifically the mother, because it directly relates to our home, our earth, and our bodies being the gift from her to home, being our home for our soul, for all of the parts of us. Like this body is our gift from her, and how this body is being treated by us as the owners or the custodians of these bodies for now, and then how we're treating the mother in society is a direct reflection on the abuse and the unacknowledgement of our home, of our earth, of this place that is created for us to enjoy and to connect with. And we're out there busy ignoring it and not giving it its rightful acknowledgement.
Thank you. And how do you see this playing out?
Well, for me personally, the journey has been on like even self love, of I guess where we can start is when my son was born. I went through some rite of passage. He was my second child, and as I awoken to this life playing out before my eyes that already had an ending, it was like a storybook ending. I was like, these aren't my dreams. This isn't my. I'm showing up for this dream, and it's not mine. What are my options here? I don't get to make the choices on my body, on how I birth my baby, on how my baby sleeps. Like he's sleeping on his tummy, and they're telling me he's gonna die if I keep letting him do that. Like the fear, and I was like, but my baby is something different, and the I was getting really angry. I was starting to rage. I was starting to question everything. And I went on a huge journey of looking for people to tell me, people that knew better to tell me who I was. And all of that would serve me only so far because I'd keep climbing to the top of each information ladder only to realize they're not there. They can't really hold me. The only thing that can hold me is the trust of myself, is to listen to myself. And yeah, that's how it's been playing out for me. It's like then I will get into a relationship, I forget who I am again, I start trusting in the other person, I lose myself, and then I go on the journey again of like, okay, I'm going to go find someone else that has the answer. And it's like, how many fucking times are we going to keep repeating this before, Bookie, you go in and you're like, okay, it's me here. It's me here with my babies. And together, we've made a contract to make this life one that we're going to enjoy and love. And it is available to us because I've had snippets of it and moments. But it's like, how do I tap into that and believe that always? And that is by clearing out the gunk that's connecting me to what is already here, which is all my trauma, and accessing what is available to everyone, which is the gift of this earth, the gift of where we've come from, and the gift of being right here, right now.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brooke. Thank you for sharing all that. And I really hear the potency in what you're saying. And there's also this journey into motherhood and like being told and being terrified effectively by advice that's not alignment with you. Like this energy of you're not allowed to be a certain way or do a certain thing, even if it goes completely against your instincts. So there's this shaming and degradation of your who what you know is to be true inside yourself. And in the journey of you speaking your truth, Brooke, what's been the pattern here of when you speak to something that you know is off and the people around you trying to convince you otherwise?
The byproduct of that, like how it shows up for me,
Yeah.
psychosis. I'm the crazy one. I think someone niche says, those that can hear the music, the other people that can't think they're mad, something along those lines. I didn't say it word for word, but when I heard that quote for the first time many years ago, I was like, I get it. I get it. My whole life, I felt like I didn't belong or fit in because I could call things and say things the way that I saw them, and everyone's like, shh, 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 we don't talk about that. We don't talk like that. That's not how we do it. And I was like, okay, who are we? I'll go find out who we is, and I'll figure out how to be we. And then, the pattern of that growing up, always choosing to do different things to my peers. I'm like, oh, there's adventure there. I'm going to seek adventure, come back, pack, and then I would be ridiculed. I'd be separate, like they'd want to hurt me, they'd want to shame me, and then that came back into my family unit as well. Every time I go out and learn something new and come back and be like, oh my God, guess what's happening in the world out there? Outside of this unit, outside of this box, things happen. There's beauty, there's magic. The dreaming is real. This is real. It's here. It's not in here. It's actually happening. Don't be silly. That's not realistic. You should get back in your box now and go back to work. You should get back in the system now. And I'm like, but I'm dying here. Why am I the only one dying here? What is wrong with me? And then on went a whole mental health of like going into that system. Then I'm like, you tell me who I am. You tell me what's wrong with me. You medicate me. I'm like, but I'm dying even more now, until the pressure gets so much that it's like I have lost all my options. There's only one, and that's to face the parts that everyone's telling me forbidden, that I've been hiding from myself. And yeah, and then seeing the truth of how that unravels as my children change instantly as that work occurs. So that was the evidence that I needed to see to stop those patterns playing out, and they still play out. But that's the evidence I go to of like, oh, there's my mirror. She's shifted. She's changed. She's taken a rite of passage. I took a rite of passage. I'm moving something. This is working. I'll continue until we're stuck again, and then I will, look at where I'm still not acknowledging.
Thank you. So, in that, what have you discovered about the potency of the mother line and being able to work on yourself and then seeing it transmutate into your kids?
Well, the honor of being a mother, of being able to connect to the great mother, which is accessible, but the honor of being a mother, as I was sharing, like, it didn't start that way. It was sacrificial. I was dying. I felt trapped. And then I didn't even know how to care for myself. And now I've got to care for two other beings in a loveless relationship where this poor guy doesn't know who he is either. And we're all in this with all our trauma, trying to figure it out. The relief that came when it was just so simple. And for that simplicity, by just like acknowledging I am a mother in this life and taking that breath with my babies and being present in the playing with them and seeing myself in them and themselves in me and dancing basically on the earth now, like with what we can create. Yeah, we get into the grind, but the beauty and the magic isn't just for my dream time now. It's actually here whenever I acknowledge it as that. And that's happening
Mm.
with my kids and how that's showing up for them in school as well. Like they'll have friction and stuff at school, and the conversations that we have now of like, okay, we just need to emotionally regulate this. It's not you. This is the system. This is the system that's playing out through this person with you. This is what's been happening my whole life. Every time you've seen mummy rage, every time you've seen mummy do this, because I wasn't regulating. I thought it was them and it was me not knowing what to do. So I can teach you now how to do that. And that is beauty. That's
Mm.
simplicity. That is the gift of going, we don't have to change everything around us, family. We can literally sit here, me, you, the three of us, and change the world just by the way we're responding to ourselves and to other people. And
Mm.
yeah, we have fun with it. We play games with people. We're like, let's see if we do it this way, what response we get, and we predict to see if we get that response. And we're doing like, oh, okay, we didn't read that. Okay, so it's become more of a live. We're alive in it than it's happening to us.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, it's alive. It's alive now. What I also heard in that was the poor guy and men, poor guy men, and men being trapped in this system too. And I know calling brothers into themselves has been an ongoing journey for me. And then I get frustrated that men don't want to have a look at what's really going on for them, and then how that plays out in family systems and then in systems where men just become this cog in the wheel and assume that that is life and that's all that life is being a mechanism in a machine and feeling helpless to it, like being a victim to it. So like, if you can speak on it, what's been your journey of being in relation with brothers like this? Like, how has it impacted you, if you want to speak to it?
Yeah, where to start? I guess I guess the part that I will own in that is that for me, what's been playing out through my patriarchal line is that I've always wanted to feel safe. And so I confused control with protection. And so my question is, do the brothers feel like controlling a woman is actually caring for them and protecting them? So that's been my experience, like in a nutshell, of like I meet these men and I'm like, come on, let's clear the ancestral lines. I know I'm not asking much, just to change the world within us, and that's terror. And then they're like, well, they meet me and they're like, yeah, wow, you've got it. Let's do it. Then we get there and the control starts. And when it can't be controlled and manipulated, it has to be faced. They haven't got they haven't done the rites of passage to support them in that, because I turn into the mother and they turn into the wounded boy, or they turn into the patriarch controlling and I go into wounded maiden, because my rites of passage didn't take place. And so we've been dancing through mummy and daddy issues of one's in power and one's not in power. And kind of what I've discovered now is like, wherever my loyalties lie with mum or with dad is the pole that I dance with. And there
Mm.
is another option when I pop through the top, and that is to remain the mother, because that's the age that I'm at now, is to stay in that mother frequency. And I would dance out of that because these boys, they need a maiden. So I'd be like, okay, I'll go back into maiden so you love me. And and then I'd be like, oh, then the control comes in and I'm like, fuck, what happened? But that's what's happening.
Yeah.
It took me months after my last relationship to discover what exactly that was. I was just feeling so injured. Like, how has this happened? We said we were going to do this thing. We knew we were coming, like clearing the ancestral lines. How is this possible? And I'm like, oh, that's what I did. I shifted. I shifted to be loved again. I'm the
Mm,
mother. And if I call in a boy, I have to stay the mother. And if they stay a boy as a result of being around the mother, they just need to take a rite of passage.
yeah.
They need, and that's why I'm so, what you shared, like I am so now brothers. And I sat in a ceremony with a dear friend of mine, facilitator. And halfway through the ceremony, I was raging so bad at the patriarchy, but seeing where the gap was. And I'm like, brother, you have to call the brothers now. It's not the next woman's job to come along and clean up this fucking mess. We got to work on our own lines over here. We got to remember who we are. We're doing that. Like there will be a time when we do this together. But right now, as long as the mother is with the boy will keep feeding.
Yeah. And
And
we
so the
do.
mother has to be removed. And Indigenous cultures have known this. All the
Mm,
First Nations have always still do their rites of passage. They go on their walkabout. The men remember who they are, and then we grow up as mums and dads and we step away. We step
mm,
away from that. We always have connection to it, but we step away from needing that because we remember who we are. But at the moment, that's without rites of passage. We're missing that step. So we've essentially, at the moment, what I'm seeing is we got all of these wounded children playing in the playground together, and that was playing out with my daughter too for a long time. In the
mm.
supermarket fighting like sisters, like and it's like this triage of whose wounding was coming up and who needed the energy. And it's like, she's like, I really need you to be my mum. And I'm
Yeah.
like, but I'm just wounded over here, and this is what was playing out in my own family unit. So then you
Mm.
add another partner into that that's also playing out the boy. And it's like, we're just kids in a playground. We are brothers and sisters. We need mums and dads now. That's what we need. We need a rite of passage that holds that space for us to remember who we are and our job.
Beautiful. Thank you, Brooke. Next question for you is, how did the control show up? So when that polarity shifted for those guys and they become that controlling archetype, what did the control look like to you? How did you know that you were being controlled or there was control being applied?
Yeah, there's so many ways. It's crazy. It's subtle and also very obvious. Well, the first one usually is the sex, because the attraction would be lost, because all of a sudden then I'm the mother or the wounded maiden, and they don't want the wound, they want the goddess. But the polarity shifted. So then, yeah, firstly, the sex life would start to go, and then they'd get really busy. So then they get really busy and they're like, okay, I'm doing my job now as the provider. I'm going to go do that everywhere else. So I'd lose the presence and the attention and the time. Um, and then being all wounded as like going, I don't know who I am anymore. Like I'm not valued here. I would then give my choices away to them. So I'd be then which puts pressure on them to make all these choices as well. It's like, well, you make the decision, you know best. You're the one in control here. And so essentially freely just giving the power away to them, giving them more control. And without the rite of passage, they don't know what to do with all the power either. So it doesn't go
Mm.
anywhere. And then the separation happens because everyone's like, well, I've done my best, or I've done my best. And all we've done is play out wounding without support, without a rite of passage.
Mm.
Does
Great.
that answer your question, John?
Yeah, I hear that. That's great. That's perfect. Perfect. The next piece is there anything else you want to share? And otherwise, I'll pivot to you asking me something. Is there anything you want me to answer? Yeah, what else do you want to share? What's alive for you right now? Like you just took your jumper off, so obviously there's some heat going on. But what else are
Yeah,
you?
this burning for days and days and days is burning. I don't want to talk about what was alive for me. This is a bit of a different jump, but what was alive for me, what was coming through on the way here, I've been really sitting in this Botox, like what's going on with this? Why is youthfulness seen as beauty? What is the wound within the feminine? maybe it's in the masculine too, but I'm a woman right now, so I'll speak to that. What is that? What is making, because I feel that I'm like, I should go get Botox. I should look younger if I'm going to be. And I'm like, why? Where is that coming into me? I don't believe that. I earned these stripes. I earned this. And what was being shared with me on the way here today was that our face, especially if it's aging quickly, it's telling us something. What we're doing is taxing us. We're being taxed. We're being taxed of our vitality. If I choose to change that and cover it up, I'm losing my map. I'm losing my connection to the truth of what is going on inside of me. And I was like, wow, what is this distortion where, I'm like, well, we're doing it on the earth too. We're going and taking and drilling and taking all the beauty, all the resource out of it. And then we're just looking at it like it's used. And I'm like, well, that's how I feel as a woman, as a mother, is that my resources without a place here are being used, and people can come and just drill it and take it and tell it. And it's, that is what is alive for me at the moment. The
Thank
really
you.
looking into the dark parts of why are we trying to change perfection?
Thank you. Yeah, I hear disrespect and a dishonoring of the body as a journey, as a map and as a journey, where like this overlay, this template of what a woman is, for example, or what a man is, for example, and that you need to maintain this youthful look, the externality, the external of being something that's eternal, when in reality that's not the case. Like there's a indicators in the body where there is exhaustion. Like look at what trauma that you're still holding on to. What else is there? Because when I look at women and I just see their vitality age, like there's women in my circles that are in their 50s and 60s and 70s, and their vitality is like one of like a 20-year-old. Like you can see that they've done this work on themselves to be like, oh, I know myself. And there's an exuberance, there's a youthful vitality that transcends the numerical age. But then to try and obsess about wanting to preserve that artificially, unconsciously, then yeah, I see a what did you miss? What else is there? Um, yeah, what else is there? And you need to be honest with yourself, right? Who are you doing it for? If you're doing it for me, are you doing it for external things? Who are you doing it for? Um, yeah, that's what I got from what you were speaking to there.
Yeah, and it comes down to even like, the removal of hair and stuff like that. It's I'm not saying don't do it. I'm not saying these things are wrong. It's not a judgment. It's a deep inquiry, a contemplation of, is this a shadow playing out? Because we are the future elders. I am. I plan on being like the best fucking elder I can possibly be. And so for me to not look at this huge collective thing that I'm seeing in the feminine, especially at the moment, is a disservice to my daughter, because
Mm,
these are the Instagram models she's following. This is what is in her face as what a woman looks like aging. And I'm like, this is what a woman looks like aging.
yeah,
This is what I look like when I'm tired. Mummy, you need more water. This is what it looks like when I am working too hard. Mummy, you need a break. It's to know that about ourselves by what we see in the mirror, to look in the actual mirror, not in the Instagram mirror, I think is like, yeah, the place where I'm beginning to unravel here. Of what is
beautiful.
it that I'm following?
And if you could, what would you see the longevity of if we keep this up of wanting to maintain this artificial youth? What would you see the longevity? What's the trajectory of where we would go as a civilization if that became the norm of trying to postpone youth beyond what's natural?
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm sitting in this and I don't have the answer, but I'll speak to where I'm at. Is so we become elders, but like I've had implants, and in the jungle, I would have, if someone handed me a knife, I would have cut them out. But what it showed me is that I can still connect no matter what mistake or what thing I've realized later and gone, oh wow, silly girl, you fell for the silly girl, you fell for, you fell back into another pattern. It's like, but it doesn't matter. The point is to acknowledge that and then to speak to it so that
Mm.
our stories leave the medicine for those that are coming behind us. To leave it unsaid is the shadow. It's to say, we did this thing and we're not going to talk about it. It's like when I was little, I'm like, why can't we talk to the elephant in the room? That's our healing. That's the healing part. It's not to be ignored. It's like, but it's not to be shamed. It's like,
Yeah.
we grew up in the same place and I'm not better than you and you're not better than me. But if we speak to the parts that have made us feel uncomfortable, we get a chance at not living that again. And our future generations get a chance of not having to repeat that cycle because we showed
Mm.
up.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
I love that, Brooke. Thank you. Thank you for speaking to that. I think it's really important to acknowledge that we don't need to repeat the same cycles again, but we need to speak to what's been shamed, speak to where we've been, not cover it over as this humiliation piece that can never be spoken to. And I see that play out in family systems, whether it's abuse or incest or bankruptcy or poverty. Like being able to speak to the core shame and shed light on it and love on it and compassion on it, so we don't need to repeat this again. Thank you.
Yeah. Love, light, and compassion, and a little bit of like a bit of shaking too. It's like
Yeah.
we are pattern breakers. And
Yes.
that means something about it needs to be, what I'm learning now, a little bit uncomfortable. Because if there's not enough pressure there, I can stay blind to it for a lot longer. Sometimes we need to poke it and be like, okay, I see it, and it needs to be done in a way that is a little bit uncomfortable.
Totally agree. And there's a permaculture principle where it speaks to wherever there's tension, wherever there's boundary, on all boundaries, that's where all the growth is. Where the ocean meets the shore, where the grass meets the sand, that's where all the growth is. And it's a conflict. It's a two opposing forces coming together to build that. Well, who's going to survive here? What's really important? What's worth preserving? And I really think that that discomfort is the agitation, the discord, the chaos is something that I think, yeah, looking at and moving through and being with, right? Um, what else popped up in that for me was I've gone blank. I've gone blank. Have you got anything to say?
Do you want to talk to the patriarch in the matriarchy?
Oh, why not? Um, I guess for in those systems, what I see is a hierarchy where we put a man in charge or a woman in charge, and or the feminine or the masculine in charge. And I see those systems may have worked in the beginning to some degree, worked. They got us to where we are today, um, but I don't see them being there moving forward, especially in the single family, like the family unit, right? So, like for me, like if I can speak to my relationship with Cass, like I lead and she leads. We both lead. There is blind spots that I have, and I know when they're appearing for me, and she will say, "John, what about this?" And I'm like, "Fuck, that's a great idea. Let's go do that," and vice versa. And then knowing when to hand over the reins as a united front to move forward is where I think we can all go as communities and as civilization, where it's easy to put one person in charge. It's easy because you obfuscate, you just abdicate your authority, and you can blame the other person as well. It's like, oh, it was the prime minister makes these decisions. Oh, this the judge made the decision, or whatever it is. You just abdicate instead of, well, what's right, what's actually correct for you, and to stand up for what's right for an individual need to be connected to your instinctual nature, like what is right for you, and then find your tribe from that. What is right for you? So, in the context of matriarchy and patriarchy, is being able to really question where you've abdicated your inner authority to something that's superior to you, that ideally oppresses your core instinct, and then moving together once that's been ascended past or integrated or acknowledged or brought awareness to, like zoomed out and gone, oh fuck, those are those things. I see those for what they are, and moving forward together, like the synarchy, right? The unitedness of all moving together as one, as individual units, moving together as one, to create what comes next. That's what comes through for me. What do you hear in that?
So much gold in that. Like, we following obviously the same golden thread in that one. Same fractal fam. So I guess what I was hearing in that I wanted to bring in is the question of, if the patriarchy and the matriarchy, so same system, if they remembered who they were working for, what difference would that make in those poles? The polarity. It would bring them together, and we would end up maybe with a circle. Anyway, this is where I've been sitting. And it broke down even so far yesterday that when it was being showed to me, they're like, look at your DNA. And they unwinded it in my vision. And it's a ladder. And it's like with the two poles there. And it's like, but then we're cyclical. And so I was like, but it's all still here for a purpose. Like, our cells, our DNA is here to keep this body in one shape. And then the same with the earth. But what's happened with the patriarch and the matriarch is they've forgotten who they are and who they're working for. And we're here for the earth. We are earth keepers. That's why we've been sent here. And my question is, like, if all of those people in those systems remembered that that's why they came here, what would change?
Yeah.
What would change? Like, the system, like, we maybe even wouldn't need to change the whole system, right? So that's what I was hearing in what you were sharing, and I see what you see.
Yeah.
I feel what you feel in that, and what you shared is so true to my experience here.
I love the why that you mentioned there. Like, why are you here? Why are you here? What are you doing what you're doing? And if I can speak from my own experience, like, before I knew what I know now, I was here to make a lot of money, to buy a house, have enough money so I could retire, so I wouldn't need to work again. But in that was a
Sports
lot
car
of.
in there? Was there a sports car in there?
I did buy a car. There was a car in there, but there was, like, material possessions, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the internal justifications of, oh, now I have this car, now I'm comfortable, and now I'm confident because I have this kind of car, because it's black and it's sporty, and, like, I can wind the windows down and crank my Psytrance down the street like a
Oh, yeah.
like Spokey Dokie. When I was a kid, I had Spokey Dokies on my bike, those little things on the spot. But now I've got a car. It's much
You
more
got the
civilized,
us now.
right? So, like, in the why, and I really think the why is in the body. Like, why are you here? Like, I didn't realize the exhaustion that was going on in my body by working those long hours in a corporate job that was betraying myself. I didn't see the exhaustion in my relationships, the people that I was attracting, and the exhaustion in my family dynamic, because they all reinforced me. They're like, John, yeah, like, working hard, got a house, got a car, got a this, like, I'm winning life as far as my societal conditioning is concerned. But then my soul and my being's like, John, there's more to this. But then to step out of that and look back and go, is there though? But, like, I like having the car, I like having the house, I like having the financial security. What's on the other side of the why? And I needed to die many times, and still dying. Like, I still die. It's like I have something set up. I'm like, this is perfect. And now I need to die to this again. Are you kidding, God? You kidding? I got to kill this again? Like, oh. So I think that journey of learning how to love the why, because I think you and I spoke about carrying crosses before, like, in our last conversation, and learning how to love carrying the cross. Like, instead of this image of the metaphor of Jesus, like, carrying this cross, like dragging your cross down the street, like, oh, I'm exhausted, and people throwing stones at you and all this kind of stuff, but actually joyously carrying your cross of, like, look at this thing. This is my why. This is
It's
why I'm
pimped
here.
up. It's got the us. It's got the little spokies. Let's bring back some of that childhood play to our
It's at 22
our
inches.
weight, right?
The sub in the back. Like, it's good, right? So I think when individuals learn to love their why, it shifts the whole perspective. Instead of being this martyristic oh, I've got to save the collective. I've got to do this. I've got to do that. It's like, nah, let's have some fun here. Like this is the fun epoch where we can be like, yeah, there's a lot of shit to do. You know, we can see out what our fathers have done and our mothers have done and what systems have done. Can we flip this thing on its head and make these whys fun? Because when you start making your why fun, you find other people who have fun whys, and that builds a tribe of like fun whys. And when shadow comes up or when lower self comes up, it's like, yeah, brother, I see that. I see that body count of women that you're leaving behind. Like, are you gonna look at that?
Dead
Are you
bodies everywhere.
bodies everywhere, right?
Yeah.
So, brother, are you gonna check yourself? Like, no more ceremonies for you. Like, this is, you need to have a look at the relationship history that you're having, the promises that you make to these women that you're not fulfilling, and then diving into work or ceremony instead of actually being with your consequences, the responsibility of your actions. And I think there's some medicine in that discomfort of there's so much more to me and you and us as individuals, but it really takes that moment to be in that discomfort and say, where am I in this?
Yeah.
Where am I sitting in this pendulum of acting out of my matriarchal or patriarchal injuries?
Yeah, I hear you. And there's another piece that I want to add to that. It's like, where are we also getting our advice from? So we might see that we're playing over and over, like there's this trail, like I have these beautiful men have showed up in my life and I've played out the same stuff. I lose myself, you know? And it's like, but also if I keep going back to mum and dad to ask them for advice, even though I don't value them as elders, like in my life right now, as people I look up to, but they keep me safe out of the same program I'm trying to break out of. Like
Mm,
that's another glitch. That's another, what do I call it? I call them the hooks
yeah, the
that
hook.
keep, like, I'm like, okay, I've come this far, and then I blow it by going back and seeking advice from the same thing I just realized isn't serving me.
Yeah,
And I'm not saying don't talk to mum and dad, but I'm saying you want good advice, go see someone that is demonstrating a life I want to live. Who's
yeah.
doing that? Who is having successful relationships? Who looks like they're having the best time in this dance here on the planet? You know, who is laughing and pulling the absolute piss out of the cosmic joke of this? It's fun. It's ridiculous. We are serious all the fucking time. Well,
Yeah.
I personally am. I have been. And now it's like life is too short. I'll take a cold dip in the ocean, you know? I'll have an uncomfortable conversation, but I'm going to stop asking advice from the people that are swimming in the same trauma, same trauma pool.
Thank you. Yeah, the image I had there, you know, the metaphor of the slow boiling frog, like everyone being in the pots. It's like people that are in the pot asking other frogs in the pot, is it getting hot in here? Like, nah, it's fine. No, it's good. Like it's good. And then eventually cooking yourselves. So
Yeah. Do you
yeah.
know what I think we're going to see? I
Tell
think we're
me.
going to see a whole bunch of kids coming through taking a rite of passage, and some of the parents our age now are going to still be the kids, and these
Yes.
these kids are going to come in, they're going to take their rites of passage, because I can feel through the ancestors calling us now for rites of passage. The kids are going to find it through school systems, because it's going to all change, and the people our age, like mum and dad age now, they're the ones that they're still stuck trying to make the money and do all the things. They're going to stay in that system to provide, and their kids are going to come through and end up being the mums and dads, and we're still going to be missing an elder generation for another generation. That's
Yes.
what I'm seeing kind of happen at the moment.
Yeah, I love that, Brooke. And I really see kids that are coming through now are born with a wisdom that is timeless.
They know the songs,
They
they
know the
hear it, and they're like,
song.
I already know this.
Yeah, and I think for us as parents, being able to not place their age as a limitation on what they know and their life experience. And if someone asks you, "How long have you been doing this for?" or "How old are you?" It's like, well,
What qualifications do you have,
exactly,
life?
exactly, right?
See
But
this
then,
smile? This is my qualification, baby.
Can you feel me? Can you feel my
Yeah.
qualifications? Like they're not
Do you want to be
entirely
friends? Do you feel that? You want to be around me? That's a good sign.
right. And then with our kids, like being able to hold that for our kids, like when my son grows up, like I can already see like how people speak to him, even though he can't speak, but they see something that's in him that's worth listening to.
Oh, your
So knowing
sounds
that,
are incredible.
thank
I've
you,
heard them. And I was like,
thank
oh,
you.
I just wanted to listen back to your message again so that I could hear your son making the sounds in the background. The
Mm.
joy, the wonder.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
And so for me, like being able to listen to him as a son and a father at the same time, like, hey, what have you got to tell me? What are you seeing about myself or life that I need to listen to? Instead of pushing the patriarchal, nah, I'm your dad. You want to live under this roof, you've got to abide by my rules. I'm like, fuck
They're
that
not
shit.
your rules.
Exactly, right? So there's this exactly, right?
Exactly.
So there's a piece of humility that's available to parents at the moment, and also being able to prepare them for the world, like dancing that middle path, which I don't think anyone's perfected really well right now.
Emotional regulation is the best I can make of it. It's like I
Right.
actually can't hide the kids from the world anymore. All I can do, if they want to be on TikTok, if they want to not eat organic, if they want to do all that stuff, I have to teach them like when your sugars are spiking, you need to regulate it. See, because it
Yeah.
affects the whole. If you know, so that's the best I can arrive with what parenting is. They're finding their
Beautiful.
own path. They've got internet. They've got everything
Got
for
everything.
emotional regulation. But I have to do that. I have to be able to emotionally regulate to teach my kid that.
Mm, beautiful. Thanks, Brooke. What else is alive for you to share?
Like if we want to speak a little bit more to the shadow, what's alive is we'll come back to like where we're getting their advice from. This also like the discernment that we need when we're looking for our medicine people, our
Mm,
shamans, our healers, our teachers, our gurus. Like these people too are going through the same process that I'm going through of balancing out the masculine and the feminine within, which is the mummy and the daddy issues and the trauma that we've been traveling through this life and what we're getting from the land too, ancestral as well. So knowing that means that these people, sometimes we give them all our power, all our decisions and saying, heal me, heal me. There comes a time where if when I wasn't feeling healed, like I was getting healing anymore, it became taxing. I had to look at the balance. And that is me taking my own rite of passage, me going, okay, it's time for me to now get off the lifelines, the things that are holding me, because as long as I stay connected to this thing, this mama, this father, then if I stay connected to it longer than I'm meant to, the shadow will come out. The power starts
mm,
being misused and abused because it's like trying to shake us off. And if I rely on it, I don't take the next step, which is going in and going, okay, I've got myself to here. Now I need to learn to fly without that and to connect to what is innate within me. So I'm
mm,
seeing, I've had a few messages from sisters speaking to the misuse of power directly from healers.
yeah.
And I'm not just speaking, like, I'm not saying they're bad people. They carry technologies and things that are so helpful for the planet. And
Yeah.
I wholeheartedly believe in that. But as we're playing out mummy and daddy issues on the planet, they are too. And so
Yeah.
it's so important that we call that and we stop hiding from that shadow and we stop making it okay. And we're like, yeah, but they're doing so much good. It's not a pros and cons. It's like, here's
Mm,
the thing, it's happening. Let's talk about it.
perfect.
They need the healing too, right?
Yeah.
So it's just speaking to those unspokens.
Thank you. What I heard coming through there was Gene Key 19. And I want also a quick shout out to Jude. Thank you for messaging on the I see you there in the chat, sharing Jude Goldsworthy, just sharing your truth and what's coming up for you.
So much
Um,
Goldsworthy. So much Goldsworthy.
um, yeah, Jinky 19, this codependency,
Yeah.
right? So you see a leader and a guru, and you want the gifts they've got, right? You want what they're sharing, but then in that not being able to call them into themselves and saying, "Hey, brother, sister, how are you really using this power? Are you aware of what else is going on here? Are you aware of that blind spot, that blinker that you've got on? Yes, you're powerful. Yes, you're in a position of authority. Yes, people rely on you. are you also willing to have a look at what you're not looking at, right? And that codependency piece plays out in the mummy and daddy too, where as a young child it's like, cool, I don't want to upset mummy, otherwise she's not going to give me the boob or attention or whatever it is. I don't want to upset daddy because last time I upset daddy he didn't take me fishing or on the bike or whatever, so there's this codependency that mutes ourselves because we want something. I think when an individual can own what they want and also speak to whatever the injustices are, or what the blind spots are, or the off sensations that you might get around a brother where he's not being, you think he thinks he's safe, but he's actually like covert trying to sexually get into your energy field, right? And being able to speak, because that's a hard one to speak to, especially for brothers, where it's
This
like,
one
hey,
goes so deep, though. We could pick this apart for hours because it goes also into like when mummy and daddy are playing out and the children are there, it's like the dad also goes through, which I've heard in tantric workshops, where all of a sudden they start becoming attracted to the woman growing. So as
yeah,
we're going through our rites of passage, whoever's holding those poles of the mummy and daddy, they always start to see the other woman and the chemistry flows. So it's like a primal response. And for people like me that are really tuned into that, and a lot of my sisters, we start feeling that, and that's where the confusion comes because there's no rite of passage. And then the roles are, and so then they just withdraw. And they're like, but hang on, we're here as a community. But it's because of the feelings aren't being spoken of.
yeah,
That, and these people that are running these communities start out usually in the most beautiful way. I have full
yeah,
compassion that, but when, like we said, all the power comes, all the energy flows just to the top two and everyone's offering support, they're like, this is a way.
yeah,
It's like, well, they don't know what to do with it either because they're
yeah,
playing out the same stuff. Where do they go? They need a container. That's the importance of having elders and a rite of passage. Not everybody trying to grow up at the same time. There's nowhere to
yeah.
go. Yeah.
Ah, thank you, Brooke. That's perfect circle of bringing that right back around to the elders again, of having that overarching wisdom of that, the umbrella of it, all of it, and being able to go, hey, this thing, this piece of wisdom, this nugget, this thing. And I see that of the power piece, like power and resources, like money or whatever it is the volume control on the shadow that's being repressed or suppressed. So you see it like they start out all humble and of service. And then once they start getting all that feedback, that positive reinforcement, that shadow comes up and they don't know well, how do I be with this? What do I do with this? Like, I'm just going to keep on doing what I do because there's a humiliation there for someone who gets up to a level of a hierarchy that needs to face that. Oh my God, I've been an absolute fucking prick or an
I need another rite of
asshole.
passage. That's all it is. This is all we're doing is we're cyclical.
Yeah.
And even when we become a leader, we grow to a certain point and then it pops. Like sometimes the people that come and join us as leaders will outgrow us. They'll move
Yeah.
faster or slower. So then they'll go on to the next. But the point is that when we're collecting that many people and all the energy is going into one place, there needs somewhere for that to go, or we need to go grow again so that we can hold a bigger container. That's it's a rite of passage, and it's simply if we look at it from going from a children to a mum and dad to the margas, then to the elders, like for that's the female line. But it's like if without taking these rites of passage, everyone's trapped in the same pool, fighting it out. This is war. This is what war is.
Totally. And what's your service in the context of rites of passage? Like, what is it that you do to take people through rites of passage?
Yeah, so after years of going and doing all this work on my own and then coming back to my beautiful family unit and going, what the fuck just happened? It's like, well, I can stretch and grow so much, but then also the contraction was so huge. So I was like, well, there's got to be a way I can take my kids with me. There has to be. I can't go do all this work and then come home and teach them. A, they don't want to listen to mum because this is not what school's teaching me. This isn't what dad's teaching me. This isn't what grandma and grandpa believe in. You're the crazy one. They just start being like that. So I was like, cool. Well, come see it for yourself. You'll see it. So I teamed up with another woman, Casey Dalmara, and we started running these camps called Into the Wild Quests. And there's a crew of us that do it. And initially I started doing these things just so my children had somewhere to come and play in nature. And then after 3 years now, the kids are like, we want to sleep out by ourselves. We want to build huts. And so these natural rites of passage have started presenting to us. I'm like, well, if that's going to happen, it needs to be a ceremony. Let's prep the families. The kids do it on their own. They learn how to pack. They learn how to pack food, how to carry their firewood, how to chop their wood. And they come back so goddamn proud. And as they were going through their rites of passage, I started going through my rites of passage. And so I was like, it doesn't matter which one goes first. Someone has to shift.
Yeah.
We can't all be here. So, yeah, we offer Into the Wild quests. We've got one coming up in the snow on the 27th of August. There's space for one more family. And this is a rite of passage for the whole family to work together. So the women separate and we do women's business. The men get held in men's business. Sometimes that's carving. For the women, sometimes that's weaving. A lot of sharing, a lot of talking about parenting. Even carers come with kids that they care for. You don't even have to be a parent. Yeah, and then the kids go off and have these adventures and work together. So we have the whole unit there from like teenagers down to 2-year-olds, and everybody's working together, and the older kids pass on the information to the younger kids and help them and carry their skis, or the younger ones inspire the older ones to sit and play the guitar and be silly. Like, you see why it's so important for us to all be together at times. And at the moment, we don't live like that all the time. But the importance of us making the time to connect like that as a family and to listen to the earth and to be in play with no phones, no Wi-Fi or anything like that. Yeah, the healing that comes when the whole family shows up together is phenomenal. Yeah.
Thank you, Brooke. I love that. If people want to do this rites of passage, this journey into themselves and the family unit and community, what's the best way for people to reach out to you?
They can look us up on Instagram, which is Into the Wild Quest, or I'm Mojo Mama _, and all of the information is on there. And we also have a website, www.intothewildquest.com.au.
Beautiful. Awesome, Brooke. Is there anything else that you would like to share alive for you right now? Or yeah.
I feel alive. I feel alive, and I feel it's only the beginning. And yeah, like as things come through, but maybe we'll do a whole nother podcast, because there's so much moving at the moment within me as a woman, within the collective. I'm seeing the cycles show up. As you speak to something, I'll see it 5 more times across the network without you having conversations, without anyone knowing. And I'm like, oh wow, there's the thread. Okay, cool, there's the thread. Yeah, and I just want to do a huge shout out to all of the brothers, calling the brothers home. Thank you. This is the way. This is the way. And to all the women who continue to show up, that continue to do the healing, to connect to the beauty of this mother energy, this earth that we live on. Thank you.
Beautiful, Brooke. Thank you. I'd love to do another one of these. This is great. I hope you've really enjoyed yourself doing this. I know I have.
It was my first time speaking like live interviewee type style. I really loved it. Thank you.
You nail it. You kill it, Brooke. And I think there's something in being able to just speak live that it bypasses all of those internal filters of am I saying the right thing, because it's out there. There's no edit. It's like, no, this is live. This is what's coming to me right now in this moment, and it's potent. So thank you
Yeah, it
so much.
is. Yeah, it was beautiful the other day, and I was like, do you want to have like a rehearsal? Like, what are we talking about? You're like, here's how it flows. Let's not rehearse anything. Let's just open up the space, a container, to organically dance in it. And I was like, all right, let's do it. That feels very edgy.
Brooke, thank you so much. I'm going to hit end stream, and then we can wrap up off record. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Great. Awesome. Thank you everyone for sticking around. So grateful if you stuck around to the end of this. And if you're watching this on replay, again, put your comments in. We'd love to read them, see what came up for you, what's present for you, what aligned with you, what didn't align with you. All of that information is really important, not just for yourself, but for us as well. All right. Mad love.
Mother.